So I want to share something personal that I genuinely think is worth sharing, just because there was a little process that I went through recently that just felt amazing to go through. And it was to do with relationships. So it's pretty normal in relationships for your partner to do something that upsets you or hurts you. And over time, after being with someone for such a long time, these things start to build up because it's really important to have communication and confront things and have these open conversations, which is you know really important to do. But sometimes there's a lot of little things that just add up, and it's like, oh, no one feels like a discussion all the time, and sometimes your life pulls you in different directions, so you've got different stresses and different levels, and the energy that you have left, you're not able to confront everything, and sometimes something gets triggered inside of us that we just have no awareness what it was. It might be completely irrational, but we're just not sure. And this is something that I experienced in all my relationships, you know, that, and I think it's just something that's totally normal because you're relating with someone and we are so complicated and we have all these different desires and different attachments. So when these desires aren't met, we start to build a little bit of resent and we start to get a little bit triggered. And I'm talking on behalf of myself here. And one thing I noticed is that in all my relationships over the years, you know, things start to get, they talk about the honeymoon phase. It's like really exciting. You feel this like this warmth in your chest, this connection. And everyone talks about it's totally normal. It's a honeymoon, then it fades. And I always want to question that. I'm almost like, why does it have to fade? Why can't we just keep feeling that connection? And my theory is that because we hurt each other, we do things that, you know, we blindly hurt the other person. Not to say we do it on purpose, but we also have our own different desires and we have our own different ambitions and we have our own different stories and defense mechanisms and protections that we end up trying to protect ourselves at all costs. And as a result of that, we can hurt other people. So to get back to the story, I've noticed that within all my relationship, I've got to this point where the honeymoon phase ends and you're in this good relationship, but that experience from the honeymoon stage isn't really there. And I started to pay attention to that. I had this realization when I got into the relationship I'm in now. We're going on 6 years, which is my longest relationship. And before I got into this relationship, all my other relationships was almost like, wow, I love this person and this feels great. I'm just going to go with it. And, this person's going to continue to make me feel great. Whereas this relationship I went into recognizing that, oh, I've got a lot of, you know, hidden secrets and I've got a lot of destructive patterns and I've got some darkness to me. And what I want to do in my life is to try and purify as much as I can. And I recognize that a relationship is an opportunity for me to look at myself. So I consciously went into this relationship knowing that, you know, this is going to take me to the places that I'm not willing to take myself because, I'm someone that has dedicated my life to self-development and understanding myself and knowing myself. And I've done different courses and had different experiences where I've looked inside and looked at different shadow aspects of myself. But a teacher once said to me one of the most amazing things. It's actually from this book. It's right next to my desk. It's the first line of the book. It says, if life is a school, relationships is a university. Talking about how relationships are actually an opportunity to look so deep because, you know, life will be the school. And like for me, it's kind of, I've taken advantage of using life for my personal development, personal growth, seeing triggers, understanding myself. But in the relationship, you know, when you come home and you don't feel like, voluntarily looking at shadows and then something happens with your partner that kind of activates that. So, oof, the defenses come up. That's when they come up. So, with these defenses that I've noticed with myself, I started to notice there was a little bit of closeness towards me, there's walls that come up. And I wasn't completely conscious to me. I didn't sit there thinking, oh, wow, my walls are up. I was more just not feeling as connected as what I could. And time just started going by and by and by. And then this connection is just, it's complacent. But there's that, there was this connection that was lacking. And it was really interesting because I caught it. I brought it into my awareness, being like, wow, that connection's lacking. What is this? And I kind of started to sit with this. I started to sit with this feeling of, hmm, let me try and investigate this a little bit more. I really want to feel it. And came back and my partner came close and she wanted to get close and, get intimate and hold me and cuddle. And I was like, I feel like a little bit of stiffness, like, did I want to give that to her? And there was like a resistance. And consciously, I'm like, yes, I want to give it to her. I want to feel this connection. I want to love. I want to experience this. But I felt my body responding this stiffness. And then I started to notice we went out and I was like, let's dance and have some fun. And I was like, this resistance. I don't really want to, kind of holding something. I'm like, this is so strange. Like, and I started to get really curious with it. Like, what is this resistance that I'm carrying? And as time went on, just really exploring this now, because now it's in the front of my mind. I'm like, what is this? This is something that's serious that needs to be looked at. And then I started to recognize and look at my past relationships and see how this resistance has always been there. Like, I'm not wanting to give you any more than what I'm already giving. I feel like I've already given enough and it's not being reciprocated, or, the stories that I have in my head, the expectations and the desires that I wanted didn't get. So I was like, okay, this is an exchange now. And I didn't want to live like that anymore. I didn't want to feel that relationships is this exchange. I just wanted to stay in the place of connection and in my heart, regardless of what the other person does. And that's what I genuinely want to do with my life, is to kind of stay there. So I ended up exploring this quite deeply, and I needed to find a word. This was the most important thing. I was like, what is this feeling? It needed a label, and I couldn't find a label. I was like, it's just this feeling that's floating around. And I was like, sitting every time I felt it and she came close, I could feel the, the resistance. And I was like, what is this resistance? What is the feeling? And then one day I kind of just explored and felt it. And the word came. I was like, oh, it feels like humiliation. And as soon as that word came and I found the word, I'm like, wow, this feels like humiliation. I had this trigger, this memory just came flooding back. And it was so clear. It was crystal clear. This memory of humiliation. I had this experience when I was younger where it was very embarrassing experience. And I could connect this experience to that. And this experience of humiliation was like I went through this thing in my teenage years. And it was so embarrassing and I felt so ashamed. And everyone else found it really funny. And, because it's quite funny when someone makes a fool out of themselves, but I made such a fool out of myself. And then I just pretended that it was all okay and laughed it off. But it was so humiliating for me inside that it created such a big process for myself. And all my friends at the time kind of found it funny and were all joking about it. But deep inside, I kind of had this belief that I started to see that even the people you love the most, which were my friends at the time, can humiliate you. So be aware. And I started to recognize that within my own relationship, that my heart was open. And any time that my partner would do something that would hurt me in some way, or kind of, unwillingly just do something that caused a trigger in me, I feel the block up. And it's almost like, be careful, be careful of humiliation. When I found this word, I started to recognize it and I started to see it. So then I started to try, okay, what happens if I meet this part of myself, this humiliated part? And because I had the memory, I had an image of myself at that age. And then I came back to my partner and I felt her come close and I felt this resistance. And I just closed my eyes and I put my hand on my chest where I felt that humiliation. And I just closed my eyes and I breathed into it. And I kind of visualized the teenage me that had this humiliation and just kind of spoke to it and just said, it's okay, you're safe. And I literally felt my whole entire body just relax. And then I just felt this connection again. And it's crazy because I'd noticed that this experience that I had, that this resistance that I had of humiliation was kind of blocking my relationship from continuing. If I had to stay in that resistance, it wasn't a relationship that could work. Like it wouldn't work for me, it wouldn't work for my partner because we're not connecting and I'm not willing to put my guard down. It was just such a powerful, and it was so clear when it happened that I just thought it's something that was worth sharing because, if someone is feeling disconnected, that is a defense mechanism. It is us trying to protect ourselves. So to start to see and maybe explore what it is that we're protecting. And for me, I found the word which I was protecting myself from being humiliated again. And when I saw it and I could sit with it and breathe with it, now when I feel this resistance, I can sit with it, breathe with it, you know, and slowly move through it. And it feels like genuine healing that's taken place in real time for me. So just thought I wanted to share that in case anyone else might need to hear it. Um, or if anyone else just wants to hear my story, that was it. So thanks for your time. Hope that talk helped in some way. Ciao.